Pelicans on Saturday. They beat the lowly Suns last night, but they've now lost 9 of their last 16. Steve Kerr has questioned the team's defense and their effort, and Steph Curry is still out with an MCL sprain and could miss the first round of the playoffs, but he was shooting before yesterday's game. We're joined once again by Jim Jackson. Jim, how vulnerable are the Warriors right now?
I mean, the question is, they're just bored. I mean, the hardest thing to do is when you had so much success is to fight human nature, which is complacency. I mean, because they won. I mean, they had motivation. Think about the first championship, it was, well, they're too young. They shouldn't be here. They didn't play against San Antonio. They didn't play against the Clippers. They got through a Cleveland team. They had motivation. And then when Cleveland beat them, they came back the next year. It was KD had to prove something. Golden State had to prove something because Cleveland beat them, so they had something to push them. I think this is where Steve Kerr comes in and has to dig into that box, that crate, Shannon, Phil Jackson, Popovich, to figure out something that's going to motivate this team besides winning a championship, which should be ultimately. But even as professionals as Draymond and Steph and Clay and Kevin are, they're going to have to find something else that's going to motivate them to push them to really be able to concentrate. Because I'll tell you what, if they have to play OKC in the first round, forget about the physical part of that game. The mental aspect of what it's going to take for Golden State to win because of everything that revolves around KD and Russell, and you're not ready, mentally focused.
Yep.
I'm not saying if they're going to lose, but it's going to be a different kind of challenge for this team this year.
Agreed.
Which is okay. I mean, you know what I mean? It's okay, but it's different when you win. You got to figure a different way to motivate yourself.
They're very vulnerable because of Steph. They're not winning a title without Steph. And the thing is that when you look at it, if they mess around and they have to go OKC or Minnesota with that big lineup with Towns and Josh and Taj Gibson and Jimmy Butler and Wiggins and Dang, they go big at you. OKC come at you with Russ. Now, Russ is not going to have to chase Steph Curry. So all his energy will be on offensive end.
Yeah, definitely.
They're very vulnerable right now. Because you remember last year, Skip, they were 12-0. They were never even challenged on their way to the finals.
Nope.
12-0. They will not be 12-0 going to this final. They're going to have a lot of dents in that armor if they were to make it. But without Steph Curry, they are very, very vulnerable. And they will not win a title without Steph.
Really?
And you see what's been going on without old Steph Curry. Old 500. With old Steph, 5-9 without old Steph. 5-9 without old Steph. The best player on the planet. Got his pockets picked twice by True Holiday and Rajon Rondo at the end of the game.
He did?
Because the best, he wasn't
What did
playing.
he score in that game? 41 with 10 rebounds?
Joy, where did he come? My restaurant, I served him up. I served him up on top of that.
What is that?
You know,
that ain't that.
I keep the napkin on there to keep that smell down.
It's ginger.
I know it is.
Keep that
I know it
keep
is.
that smell down.
Dana White brought him that was that Hennessy you got?
Yeah.
Still ain't been open.
I done popped that several times.
No,
When he
you
body bag Nurkic, gonna get me something.
So I'll go this far. In the finals, Golden State will have a hard time with the Sixers. I will agree with you on that.
Now he's going back there. We're going back with that. We're talking about them.
I just want to see.
What?
See if you're paying attention.
Yeah, we're paying attention. Sixers in the finals.
I'm with Jim Jackson. Golden State is just bored. Maybe Golden State's a little gun shy because they've had so many injuries of everybody else that could challenge LeBron along the super highway to the finals. But it's been over for so long because Houston just pulled away and it was over. And Portland is no threat to come up from behind. So they're just sitting there treading water, waiting for are we there yet to be over? Because when it's over, they'll start to play. And that 7-foot monster, he is a monster. And look, they had one game where they had a chip on their shoulder. One game, the 7-foot monster got challenged. It was not too long ago on April 3rd in Oklahoma City. Remember what happened that night? 34-10 happened from that 7-foot monster named Kevin Durant against his old co-star Russell Westbrook, who also had a monster night, but it wasn't enough to overcome the monster who is Kevin Durant.
But that's your team. You say you like them.
Well, I'm with Jim on that. Boy, if they clash head on, if they run headlong into each other in the first round, look out. I'd still have to be slight on Golden State just because I still think they're the favorite to win it all. Because even without Steph Curry, it would be some
I don't
theater.
know.
This is one
I
I
might
would
take OKC.
may take-
Without Steph,
No, wait. Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing too. Isn't it ironic too that now this team, we've seen this in the past with, let's say, a San Antonio team that gave up home court advantage
Right.
because they figured once they get into the playoffs, we'll figure out. Even the Cavs, from the perspective of LeBron not holding serve to home court because you had a team in front of you that was more determined to show that they needed to have the number one seed. So
Right.
you got Houston right now on that same track to kind of prove, because James Harden, I think it's huge for James Harden and Chris Paul and even Mike D'Antoni from that perspective this year to prove all of together they can beat a Golden State team. So I think in the long run, I think it helps this Golden State team because they have to deal with injuries, which they hadn't had to deal with before. How do you deal through that adversity? How do you navigate through not having a full lineup and a full repertoire? So if you go into OKC against Russ,
Yep.
I mean, and without a healthy Steph, and we've seen the pace of play is so much different. And I tell you, with Steph, Katie is so good, but that pace of play, you go from first with Golden State when Steph is